The courtroom felt like it was holding its breath, every sound swallowed by the tension gathering in the corners. The wealthy teen lounged in his chair as if it were a private VIP booth. One arm draped lazily over the back, sunglasses still on despite being indoors. He didn't wait to be addressed. He didn't even pretend to respect the space. Instead, with a smirk carved from entitlement and too many escapes from consequence, he tilted his chin toward Judge Caprio and delivered the line that cracked the room in half. "You can't touch me." A sharp gasp rippled through the gallery. The bailiff straightened instantly, as if bracing for an impact the teen didn't even see coming. The boy's mother covered her face, fingers trembling, as whispers rushed through the rows behind them, equal parts disbelief and quiet outrage. Even the fluorescent light seemed to flicker at the audacity. Judge Caprio didn't respond right away. He simply lifted his eyes, that familiar blend of patience and disappointment settling over him like an old, well-worn coat. It wasn't anger. It wasn't shock. It was something deeper, something that made the room tighten even further, the silence of a man who has seen arrogance before and knows exactly what it costs. The teen kept smiling, convinced he had already won, but beneath that hollow confidence, something fragile trembled, and no one, not even the tin, knew that this one sentence was about to flip his entire world upside down. This moment didn't appear out of nowhere. Behind the teen's smirk lay a long trail of reckless behavior, complaints buried under parental influence, and a pattern of thinking that rules existed for everyone else but him. Speeding tickets swept under the rug, minor vandalism ignored because he's just a kid. And online posts flaunting defiance, all of it, built a sense of invincibility. Every infraction had been met with excuses, every misstep forgiven. Until now, the courtroom wasn't just a room, it was a stage for accountability. A place where the shield of privilege met the hard wall of justice. Ordinary citizens watched in fascination and frustration as the spectacle unfolded. They had grown tired of seeing wealth and influence bending laws, turning consequences into jokes and disrespect into clout. Social media was alive with comments, memes, and whispers of outrage, some cheering the teen's audacity, others anticipating the inevitable reckoning. How far would he go? And how would Caprio respond when everyone was watching? The question hung over the room like a storm cloud, pressing down on every bench, every camera lens, every spectator holding their breath. On one side, parents and family whispered reassurances, confident that Caprio would exercise leniency. On the other, friends, reporters, and onlookers anticipated a breaking point, a moment when even patience could crack. The contrast was electric. Entitlement and arrogance facing decades of wisdom and discipline. The tension wasn't just about one teen, it symbolized a larger struggle between accountability and impunity, between the facade of privilege and the reality of consequence. Every eye, every camera, every whispered speculation compounded the stakes, making each second heavier than the last. And as the courtroom cameras kept rolling, capturing every tremor of defiance and flicker of doubt, the next move changed everything. From the very beginning, the teen's world had been gilded in privilege. Money solved problems before they ever became crises. Minor infractions at school were quietly erased with a phone call from a parent. Parking tickets disappeared with a signed check. Every mistake was a lesson in how wealth could rewrite consequences, how influence could bend rules, and how appearances mattered far more than accountability. His parents, proud yet indulgent, often defended rather than disciplined. A stern word was replaced with an explanation of why the world would never understand him. Praise for charm and cleverness outweighed guidance, creating a sense of entitlement that grew unchecked. The teen learned that confidence wasn't built on merit, but on the ability to navigate a world that would always bend toward his advantage. Online, it was a phenomenon. Fans celebrated his disruptive antics, calling them pranks, while praising his courage to flaunt authority. Videos showed him cruising through intersections without regard, laughing as he flaunted cash or bragged about getting away with anything. Each post, each clip received thousands of likes, shares, and comments that reinforced the idea that invincibility came with a follower count. The applause of strangers became a mirror of self-worth, and yet, beneath the curated confidence, lay contradictions. He demanded respect, but mocked those who enforced rules. He proclaimed himself untouchable, yet the smallest hint of real consequence caused a flicker of fear. Authority terrified him in a way that wealth and privilege could not mask. Teachers, neighbors, even close friends had tried to warn him. A principal's gentle lecture, a friend's quiet admonishment. A neighbor's frustrated shake of the head, they were all interpreted as evidence of cleverness. Proof that he could slip through the cracks unscathed. Each narrow escape cemented a fragile confidence. A house of cards propped up by luck, money, and public adoration, every action, every defiance, every viral stunt became another brick in a wall, built of entitlement and illusion. The world saw swagger and bravado. Caprio would soon see the cracks beneath the surface. And so, when he walked into Judge Caprio's courtroom, he assumed it would be just another win. He couldn't have been more wrong, Judge. Caprio's story began far from the marble floors and oak-paneled courtrooms he now commanded. Born to immigrant parents who labored tirelessly to make ends meet, he grew up in a neighborhood where every penny counted and every opportunity had to be earned. Nights were spent serving tables at diners, carrying trays heavier than his small frame, learning the value of hard work and the quiet dignity of honest labor. When the streets fell silent, he studied under the dim glow of streetlights, textbooks balanced on laps, absorbing lessons that no classroom alone could provide. These experiences shaped more than his work ethic. They forged his character. Firm yet human, stern yet empathetic, Caprio developed a style that demanded respect without intimidation, that expected accountability without cruelty. He understood struggle intimately and carried that understanding into every case, reading not just the words of the law, but the heart of the people who came before him. Each decision was informed by lived experience, the sacrifice of parents, the weight of responsibility, the lessons learned in every job he took to support his family, even as a teenager. He had been a pillar for his siblings, juggling multiple jobs while ensuring their needs were met. Mentoring younger children in his community, he taught lessons of discipline, kindness, and resilience, believing that a life of integrity could inspire others. Each hardship, each night of exhaustion, reinforced a philosophy that would guide him in the courtroom. Dignity is non-negotiable. Kindness is strength. Justice must uplift. Contrast this with the teen he would soon face. Where Caprio's life had been shaped by accountability and earned success, the boy's world had been cushioned by wealth, privilege, and an illusion of immunity. Every lesson Caprio had learned through struggle now stood as armor for the challenges ahead. He did not see a rich brat standing before him. He saw a young man on the precipice of squandering everything, teetering dangerously close to consequences he could not yet imagine. Countless cases had prepared him for this moment, each one teaching patience, observation, and the subtle art of letting arrogance reveal itself. Caprio knew that when he spoke, the weight of truth carried far more power than threats or theatrics. His past had trained him to recognize not just behavior but potential, not just mistakes, but the paths they could lead to. And as the courtroom held its breath, the moment came where entitlement would meet earned authority. The teen's confidence, built on illusions, would soon collide with a lifetime of preparation, empathy, unwavering integrity. And when their worlds collided, Caprio's past became his greatest weapon. The courtroom air crackled as the exchange began, each word a spark igniting tension. The teen rolled his eyes, flipping through papers as if the proceedings were an inconvenience rather than a responsibility. When Judge Caprio addressed him directly, he interrupted with a smirk. Dismissing the fine as pocket change and boasting that his family owned half the city, his arrogance hung in the room like smoke. Suffocating reason, daring anyone to challenge it, Caprio's response was measured, calm and deliberate. His voice didn't rise, it didn't tremble, simply cut through the noise with a clarity that made spectators lean forward instinctively. The teen, sensing no immediate pushback, became bolder. Each interjection grew sharper, each claim more exaggerated. He laughed at questions, mocked procedures, and seemed to believe that his confidence alone could bend the courtroom to his will. But Caprio had no intention of playing along. He began to ask precise, probing questions, each one designed to test not just memory, but integrity. Where the teen had relied on bluster, he now had to justify himself. Answers came coated in arrogance, revealing cracks beneath the polished veneer. He bragged about privileges, exaggerated accomplishments, and inadvertently confirmed a litany of minor infractions he had. Assumed no one noticed. The spectators' whispers escalated into murmurs of disbelief. Some exchanged glances of frustration, others of anticipation, sensing that the moment had turned into a subtle battle of wills. Social media live streams buzzed with excitement as viewers predicted the breaking point. Some cheering the teen's audacity, others hoping for the reckoning that seemed inevitable. The more he talked, the deeper he dug, each claim a self-made trap. Caprio listened, nodded, and allowed the teen's ego to carry him further, all while maintaining a composed authority that radiated control. Every eye in the courtroom tracked the subtle shifts, the tightening jaw, the flicker of unease behind sunglasses, the tightening grip on the edge of the table. And then, with a calm that belied the storm about to unfold, Caprio leaned forward. The room held its breath, every heartbeat sinking with the sudden shift in energy. The counterattack was coming. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation. Every eye fixed on Judge Caprio, who sat with a calm authority that seemed to absorb the tension like a magnet. The teen, once brimming with arrogance, leaned back in his chair, sunglasses on, smirking as though the world would always bend to his will. He had spoken the words he thought would cement his invincibility. "You can't touch me." But Caprio didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned slightly forward, his hands resting gently on the bench, eyes scanning the courtroom as if measuring every heartbeat, every flicker of confidence. Caprio began slowly, almost conversationally. Yet every word landed with the weight of inevitability. He laid out the teen's complete driving record, fines, paid and unpaid, citations long forgotten, reckless maneuvers captured on traffic cameras. Then he brought forth evidence of parental interventions, attempts to cover up violations, phone calls made to erase missteps. Each fact was precise, clear, undeniable. The teen's confident posture faltered. The smirk on his face wavered and began to shrink. A subtle tightening of his jaw betrayed the first signs of unease. The courtroom reacted immediately. Phones rose as spectators began filming, capturing each moment of the teen's unraveling. The mother instinctively covered her mouth, eyes wide in disbelief, realizing that the illusion of untouchable privilege was slipping away before her very eyes. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably, aware of the growing tension. Whispered gasps and murmurs threaded through the spectators, and even the judge's clerks leaned forward to witness the spectacle of arrogance meeting consequence. Caprio's dismantling of excuses was methodical and deliberate, each counterpoint like a brick removed from a collapsing wall. Claims of ignorance were met with evidence. Boasts of untouchability were countered with facts, footage, and documentation. Every interruption from the teen was gently but firmly overruled. "Please allow me to finish," Caprio said softly, each syllable carrying authority that brooked no argument. The teen tried to laugh nervously, attempted to inject humor, but Caprio had anticipated every move. Harder evidence followed: dashcam videos, social media clips, school surveillance footage, revealing reckless behavior previously hidden. The teen's confidence eroded with each revelation. He slouched in his chair, fingers gripping the edge of the table, eyes darting as he attempted to formulate retorts that had no foundation. Every flustered laugh, every attempt at charm, only drew sharper contrasts with Caprio's unshakable composure. Social media reactions were instant and ferocious. Clips went live on TikTok, Twitter feeds exploded with commentary, and hashtags like #RespectCaprio began trending. The courtroom itself became a stage for a morality play, each spectator unwittingly participating in the unfolding lesson on humility and accountability. Caprio wove emotional resonance into the facts. He spoke of accountability as not merely a legal requirement, but a moral responsibility. He highlighted respect as a value, not a courtesy, and he addressed the dangers of believing oneself invincible. Privilege without responsibility is perilous, he stated, voice calm yet piercing. Every action leaves a mark, every choice has consequence, and the world notices whether you think it does or not. The teen's shoulders slumped further as the weight of these words settled. Even his carefully cultivated bravado could not withstand the force of truth and clarity. Audience reactions amplified the tension. Whispers became audible gasps. Phones captured every twitch of anxiety, every shift in posture, every faltering glance. Live chats and online comments debated every word, while news outlets prepared highlight reels that would circulate for days. The courtroom's atmosphere was cinematic. The tension, the revelation, the slow collapse of arrogance all captured in real dash time. As the climax approached, the teen grew silent. His voice, once loud and defiant, disappeared into the heavy quiet. Caprio had not yelled, had not berated, had not humiliated. Yet the impact was complete. The young man's ego, built over years of privilege and indulgence, it crumbled under the calm, methodical dismantling of truth and accountability. The silence was heavier than any sentence could have been. It carried the weight of realization and the first true encounter with consequence. And just when the room seemed to have absorbed the full measure of his lesson, Caprio leaned slightly forward. His gaze pierced the courtroom once more. Every phone recording, every murmur, every social media stream seemed to pause in anticipation. The audience, live and online, sensed that the final moment, the ultimate mic drop, was approaching. Caprio's words, deliberate and resonant, were poised to send shockwaves beyond the courtroom walls. He had already dismantled the teen's defenses, stripped away his arrogance, and exposed the fragility beneath his curated confidence. But what he would say next was destined to echo far beyond the day's events. A reminder that true justice is measured not by spectacle, but by the transformation it ignites in those who witness and experience it. Even as cameras rolled and whispers spread, the teen's gaze fell, no longer challenging but contemplative, aware of the lesson in full. And though the courtroom held its collective breath, everyone understood the moment of reckoning was not yet over. And what Caprio would declare next would define the story for generations of viewers. But Caprio wasn't done. What he said next sent shockwaves far beyond the courtroom. The moment Caprio's words echoed through the courtroom, the ripple traveled far beyond its walls. Social media ignited almost instantly. The hashtag #RespectCaprio began climbing trending lists, shared and reshared by viewers, mesmerized by the measured authority that had dismantled arrogance so thoroughly. Short reaction edits went viral, looping the teen's faltering confidence and Caprio's calm composure side by side, each clip telling the story in a heartbeat. Commentary channels hailed it as the smackdown of the year, analysts dissecting tone, timing, and the subtle mastery of influence that turned what could have been a simple reprimand into a cultural spectacle. TikTok feeds overflowed with reactions. Young people, parents, and legal enthusiasts alike shared their own takes, some praising Caprio's poise, others reflecting on the dangers of entitlement. Influencers posted side-by-side comparisons, memes highlighting the teen's deflating arrogance, and celebratory clips honoring justice served with outrage. Without theatrics, but with unshakable authority, news outlets ran highlights across morning shows, evening recaps, and live commentary panels, replaying the moment as if the courtroom had become a stage for a modern morality tale. Meanwhile, the teen's world began to shift. Schoolmates whispered, once admirers now skeptical, and friendships frayed under the weight of public scrutiny. Sponsors, previously eager to attach their names to his image, pulled away quietly but decisively, unwilling to be associated with someone now widely perceived as reckless and out of control. His online persona, once untouchable, faced scrutiny from both fans and critics. The fallout was immediate, undeniable, but Caprio's intervention had not destroyed him. It became instead a turning point, a moment to confront his missteps, to reckon with the consequences he had long evaded. Across the country, people compared the scenes: the teen's collapse versus Caprio's unwavering calm. Commentators highlighted the contrast, one built on fleeting confidence and curated illusion, the other grounded in decades of lived experience and principled resolve. The message resonated deeply. Accountability is a mirror, reflecting who we truly are when the masks of privilege are stripped away. Communities debated the lesson, sharing personal reflections, discussing parenting, and the responsibility of wealth and influence in shaping character. Yet the story was far from over. The public spectacle, the viral clips, the commentary of it, set the stage for what no one expected. Amid the whispers, memes, and lessons learned, the teen himself would reemerge. The transformation was already taking shape, but no one could predict its full impact. But the biggest shock came when the teen himself reappeared completely transformed. Weeks after the courtroom showdown, the teen returned not with defiance, but with a demeanor that startled those who remembered the arrogance that had once filled the room. Whether in court or through a public statement, he spoke with genuine humility, voice steady yet tinged with the weight of reflection. He admitted to the arrogance that had blinded him, acknowledging the privileges he had taken for granted and the ways he had skirted responsibility. For the first time, he expressed gratitude, not for leniency, but for the lesson itself. And he thanked Judge Caprio for holding him accountable with both firmness and respect. He spoke on privilege and responsibility, recognizing that wealth and status are not shields from consequence, but tools to shape character. His words hinted at real change, a commitment to seeing beyond the surface of entitlement, to understanding that actions carry weight and that respect is not inherited, is earned. The transformation was subtle, but unmistakable. A public reckoning of the self he had once inflated with illusion. Caprio's response, calm and unwavering, delivered the final moral note. He reminded all who watched that dignity is earned. Accountability is a path that safeguards both individuals and communities, and that no one, regardless of wealth or influence, stands above the law. His words framed the courtroom not as a place of punishment, but as a crucible where character is tested and refined. The emotional crescendo tied the moment to universal values. Immigrant grit, the pursuit of fairness, human growth. The story transcended a single courtroom or a single teen. It reminded viewers that mistakes, arrogance, and privilege can all be redirected toward understanding, empathy, and responsibility. Communities, families, and young people watching were invited to reflect on their own paths, inspired by the possibility of redemption, learning, and change. As the teen's eyes met Caprio's, the tension of weeks melted into recognition. The room, once charged with confrontation, now held a quiet sense of hope and the uplifting clarity that accountability can transform, not just punish. Justice, Caprio emphasized, is not vengeance. It is an opportunity to become better, to rise above ego and entitlement, and to walk forward with integrity and dignity. Justice isn't punishment, it's a chance to become better. The story of the teen who once declared, "You can't touch me," now serves as a powerful reminder that those who believe themselves untouchable often fall the hardest. Yet within that fall lies the opportunity to rise, to confront mistakes, and to embrace accountability with humility and courage. It is a lesson that transcends wealth, status, circumstance, universal truth about the cost of arrogance and the power of integrity. As viewers, this moment invites reflection. How do we confront our own missteps? How do we respond when privilege tempts us to avoid consequence? Judge Caprio's steadfastness teaches that dignity is not granted, it is defended. That accountability is not punishment, it is growth. And that true strength comes not from wealth or clout, but from character forged through experience and conscience. Let this story resonate beyond the courtroom. Share it with friends, discuss it with family, and consider how the principles of fairness, responsibility, and respect can shape our own lives. Subscribe for more narratives that reveal the intersection of justice, human drama, and the timeless struggle between arrogance and accountability. Join a community committed to truth, compassion, and standing firmly against entitlement, wherever it may appear, every view, every share. Every conversation sparked by this story is part of a larger movement, a reminder that society thrives when courage meets consequence, when accountability inspires growth, and when integrity prevails over ego. Let this be more than a viral moment. Let it be a catalyst for reflection, dialogue, and change. Because in the end, falling isn't the end. Falling is the beginning of rising stronger, wiser, and more grounded in the values that truly define us.